Revolutionary greetings, comrades. On this Red Sunday, we are discussing Sudan. You know that Sudan is a former British colony. It was colonized by British forces in the 1890s up to 1953. But there have been challenges ever since. There have been coups in Sudan, and recently with the coup. We are joined by Dr. Abdul Al-Ghoni, who is the chairman of the African Diaspora Forum, but is speaking in his capacity as an activist and a politician in Sudan. He's going to give us some insight on what is happening currently in Sudan. Welcome, Dr. Al-Ghoni. If you were to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Abdul Karim Al-Ghoni. I am a Sudanese South African, and I am a medical doctor by profession, specializing in HIV and AIDS and health systems development. As you have mentioned, I was a politician in my previous life. I was for 4 years an advisor to our democratically elected Prime Minister Sadiq Al-Mahdi, who is late now, alayhi rahmatullah. And we had a coup 30 years ago, and we all went to jail. I spent 7 months in different security jails and what we call the ghost houses. And I found a job as a volunteer with United Nations, and I ended as a United Nations medical doctor officer in Lesotho. And I fell in love with Southern Africa, and I stayed here. But I am happy that in your introduction, you said Sudan was a British colony, because actually Sudan, the Sudanese, I personally say the Sudanese are different people. The Sudanese are not Africans, and the Sudanese are not Arabs. They are Sudanese. They took the best of the Africans, and they took the best of the Arabs, and they became Sudanese. And as you have mentioned, in the 1800s, we had a revolution in Sudan, and we were the only country across the globe at the time, when the British company, the sun never sets on the empire, we were the only country who has defeated the British.
Okay.
And killed General Gordon, and they became very angry at us, and they brought Kitchener Basha, who came here to South Africa, by the way, to fight the Boer in the Boer War in 1902. After finishing what has done in Sudan, my grandfather was one of the fighters, and we are still in our revolutionary spirit, as you said. We had a military coup, and in October last year, 25th of October, and until today, we are fighting that. We lost more than 93 youth, and we are still continuing until we have a rule of the law and the rule of the people.
So, Doc, from 1953, when the British rule ended, how many coups have Sudanese gone through?
Oh, we have more than 18 coups, and we fought all of them. Out of the 18 coups, 3 were successful. Actually, 4 were successful. And we fought the 4. The first one stayed 4 years, the very successful one. And the second successful one stayed 16 years. And we finished him in a revolution, a popular uprising. And the third one is the one of Omar al-Bashir. And you remember when he came here, we acted against him, and he ran out of this country with his tail between his legs. And then we have this coup that happened last year, and we are fighting it till today. As I told you, we are a sort of people who never accept inhumane treatment, who never accept defeat. We fight for what is right for ourselves and for everyone else. By the way, Sudan is the only country that receives refugees from all over the world. We don't send people away. This is why I told you we have the best of the Africans and the best of the Arabs. So refugees in Sudan, they live. There is no xenophobia. I don't want to exaggerate, but there is no xenophobia in Sudan. You live like a Sudanese. wherever you come from, Syrian, Russian, South African. By the way, Mandela had a Sudanese passport for a number of years, a diplomatic passport from 1964 to 1968. He was traveling on a Sudanese passport. It is now here in the, I think it's in the museum. Yes.
And Doc, I did not check the political formation that you belong to. I'm a communist. There is a Sudanese Communist Party. It would be interesting to know your relationship, maybe the political formation that you belong to, and the relationship.
To be very frank with you, the strongest communist party in Africa was the Sudanese Communist Party. And we have 3 Sudanese leaders who were in the in the highest political bureau of the Russian Politburo of the Russian Communist Party.
Okay.
But of course, we didn't like the communists because we felt Africans must be Africans. Africans must be Africans. We must use African traditions, we must use African thought, and we must create our own thing. So even if we are happy with someone else's policies and thinking and whatever, we must Sudanize that thing. We must not be part of a Russian Communist Party. We must create our own independent Sudanese party. And there is no problem of having relationship with other people who have the same thought like us. But what we didn't like about the Sudanese Communist Party is that it sees itself as a Russian entity in Sudan. And this is why in 1973, they had a coup and it was very successful. They succeeded in Sudan to hold the government for 3 days. And then they all dressed in red and went into the Khartoum main streets, okay? Shouting, we are Sairin fi tariq Lenin, which means we are continuing to do our work following the Lenin's way of doing things. And immediately when they shouted this, we said to them, you are not South Sudanese. You are now Russians and we will fight you. And we fought them, and in 3 days they lost power. So we have no problem with anyone to have any thinking, but it has to be nationalized. So if we have a Zimbabwean Communist Party, it must be Zimbabwean, not a Zimbabwean Communist Party that is part of a Russian or a Chinese or whatever. We need to Africanize everything. We are Africans. We need to lead the future. We take the best of whatever nation they have and we make it ours, because you see, knowledge is no man's property. It's everyone's property.
So Doc, certainly we develop socialism guided by our own conditions in Africa,
yes.
in Sudan, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa. But what is the latest? Because you spoke, before we get to the latest, you spoke about the 30 years of a coup by Bashir, who now we understand is behind bars. Where is he? What is happening? Our comrades want to understand what is happening to him currently.
He is no longer behind bars. The coup decided to bring all the old system back. So they released him from prison to his house. So he's no longer behind bars. But let me put it to you this way. Al-Bashir and his people, they wanted to rule by force. And to rule, they can sell everything, including themselves. They can sell themselves to the CIA, they can sell themselves to the Mossad of Israel, they can sell themselves to the KGB of Russia, to the Chinese, they will sell the land. They give land to anyone who can support them to continue in power. And this is a problem that we are having in Africa. African leaders, they wanted power at any cost. And we, the people, are against this. My party comes back from the revolution that have sent the British running away from Sudan. And we feel that Africans must rule Africa by African thought. We are capable, and we can get the knowledge from America and from Europe or from wherever, but we will Africanize it and we rule Africa as Africans. but we shouldn't rule Africa as stooges of the CIA or the KGB or the Chinese or anyone else. So in Sudan, we felt we needed to rule ourselves, and this is why we are in this revolution. We are preventing the al-Bashir and his people to rule Sudan. We have made the country ungovernable. Since they had their coup in October last year till today, they don't have a prime minister. They don't have a government, and they couldn't have one. Because everyone they go to, the revolutionary will go to him and say, hey, if tomorrow we see you working with the military, you can't rule this country.
What has been the relationship between your party and the military? Al-Bashir gets disposed, I think some 2-3 years back, and then what happened? Because the perception is that a civilian government took over before the latest coup. If you can take us through that process.
Yes, my party, which is called the Ummah Party, as I told you, is a descendant of the revolutionaries, the Ansar revolutionaries who have sent the British out of Sudan. And we believe that people are free and they must be ruled by their free will. They should choose who rules them. And this is our stance since our formation of the party in 1946 till today. But unfortunately, as I told you, there were so military coups in Sudan. People wanted to rule by them, and we can't fight. We are activists. We say the right things, and we follow, and we pay the price for it. Because of that, immediately this military coup, when al-Bashir came to power, he felt that his main threat is coming from this party, the Ummah Party. So what they do is they try to buy people from the party. Actually, we had 4 parties who have given birth from our party.
Okay.
They say Mabena is a good man. They go to Mabena. Why are you following this party? We will give you. You will be a party. We will give. What do you want? You want money? You want 1,000 people? Yes. Tomorrow we will give you 1,000 people to register with you. So they go and register an official. They say, for example, the Revolutionary Ummah Party. They give it a name. They keep the Ummah Party name and they add something to it. The Revolutionary Ummah Party, the United Ummah Party, the Excellent Ummah Party, the People's Ummah Party, something like this. So they created people from our ranks. Some of them were part of the Politburo who followed the military. They gave them a post in government and they sold themselves to the devil. But we are continuing till today until this military coup will go. And I assure you, we are not going to stop until I die. My children, I brought them up to be themselves and to fight for the right. And they will fight this military coup until we have democracy in Sudan. I assure you of that. It's not only me. It's not only me. There are thousands of people like Abdul in Sudan who have the same belief, not from the Ummah Party, even from other parties, who also believe in democracy, and they train their children. They are the boys who are now walking on the streets, are children of people like me who believe in democracy.
I know, Doc, that you have been going to Sudan for negotiations to try and bring peace. How far are these negotiations, and what is the attitude of the African Union to the peace process in Sudan?
I want to be very frank with you. Majority of the Sudanese, they don't have trust in the military. And we believe we cannot cross this hurdle without the military. So we had to find a middle position where the military can come in and we reduce their power over years until in 3 to 5 years we have a full democracy and the military will go to their barracks. But there are people who are now in an increasing number, they don't have trust in the military, and they say whatever agreement you have with the military, there is no way that it is guaranteed to happen, because previously we had America, we have the United Nations, and we have the African Union who guaranteed the previous agreement that we had in 2019 with the military.
Mhm.
And despite all those assurances from those international partners, the military went again and had a military coup, and they took our Prime Minister Hamdok to jail and all the ministers.
Mhm.
Selectively, they left ministers. By the way, I have a friend of mine who was the Minister of the Animal Resources, and he is still the Minister of Animal Resources. He has no Prime Minister.
Mhm.
They kept him because he supported the coup. So he is continuing as a minister with no prime minister. Look at this chaos.
Yeah.
Nothing like this has happened in any country in the world. It only happens in Sudan because of the military. But the problem is there are international bodies
Mhm.
that wanted the military to continue because the military can guarantee them, they sell them whatever they want, can stand with them against whatever they want, they can do whatever the partners want. This is why the military are supported by some regional countries that are around Sudan. They wanted the military, they don't want the Sudanese to be free.
Yeah. So
The position now is like this.
Mhm.
There are people who are saying, let us fight and let 2, 3, 4, 10,000 Sudanese die. And we keep this flame until it burns out the military.
Mhm.
And this is one thought that is continuing, especially the youth who have no political experience. They think we have to continue like this. And there are people, I am one of them, that think that whatever we do, if we go to war, if we go to riots, if we go to whatever, in the end, there must be a negotiated settlement. And this negotiated settlement, it is better that we do it today than we do it tomorrow after we have lost more lives. So the discussion, there is no right or wrong. Both discussions are right, but we are trying to get the cheapest way of getting our democracy back.
Recently, the chairperson of the African Union was in Sudan or had contact with him. Promises were made. What happened?
I want to be very frank with you. The African Union doesn't have teeth. It doesn't bite. It is a body, it can say something, but it has no muscle to make you abide by what you have signed. So we have agreed with the African Union. We have agreed with the IGAD. The IGAD is another regional institution that is Sudan is part of, and Kenya and other countries. And we have agreed with the United Nations. We have agreed with the Troika, which has America, Britain, and Norway. We have agreed with the Arab Union. We agreed with them that please, we can sign an agreement with the military, but would you have the power to prevent the military from doing another coup against our new prime minister that we will choose? They don't have muscle. So this is why the argument of those who say, let us continue until the military die.
So because on the 6th of June 2019, Sudan was suspended from the African Union Peace and Security Council, and
still suspended. Yes,
it's still suspended, and
it is still suspended. Yes, still suspended. But they say we don't care. You see, this is what they have seen in Sisi of Egypt. When Sisi of Egypt has his military coup, he was suspended. But then he was able to stop every opposition to him in Egypt. He killed thousands and imprisoned thousands until he was able to quieten everything. When he was quieted everything, the African Union came and said, yes, okay, now we recognize you. So the military in Sudan wanted to see if they can quieten our opposition. Maybe the African Union will change its stance and treat them the way they treated Sisi. And we won't allow that. We are not going to allow the military to have power in Sudan. They can kill us. They will kill us, but we will continue until we get our democracy back.
I saw on internet that which was published, an article published on the 22nd of April, saying 25 political activists have been released, but the leaders of FFC are still in jail. Your comments on that?
Yes, you see, this is what this is. We said, let the military do some steps that tells us they are serious.
Mm-hmm.
We have ministers in jail, we have activists in jail, we have political leaders in jail, we have youth in jail. Let them release them all, because they were all in jail because of political reasons. Release them so that we believe you wanted a settlement for this crisis. So they released 20 today, and by night they take in another 30. This is why we feel they are not right. So they released some, they kept some, they are selective in who they release. They wanted to see who is keeping the ball rolling. Unfortunately for us in Sudan, our revolution doesn't have a head. Doesn't have a head. The revolution is in the head of every Sudanese. And this is why whoever they jail, the revolution continues going on, and they didn't know what to do now. I think they will come, in the end, they will come back to us and say, okay, we wanted to go out in a year. We promise you, do what you want to do. And then we will see how things go.
Okay, as we are drawing to conclusion, who supports the military internationally? Because we have seen the involvement of the United States, France, Britain, in a number of African countries where they prop up military coups. So in the case of Sudan, who supports the Sudanese military?
The main supporter of the Sudanese military is the Russian.
Okay.
The Russians are supporting Sudan. They are exploiting Sudan mineral resources, and they are supporting the military by giving them the latest technology into following up everyone, knowing where he is, what is he saying, what is she doing. Okay, they're giving them the latest technology in following up the Sudanese and putting whoever is resisting under arrest. So the Russians are the main source of support. They are not giving money, but they are giving international support in the United Nations. So in the United Nations, whenever people wanted to come and say, we wanted to do things against the military in Sudan, the Russians will use their veto and stop United Nations from doing anything. So the Russians is one. Egypt has no interest in a developed Sudan, because they wanted the Nile water. And if there is any development in Sudan, Sudan have millions of hectares of arable land. If those millions of hectares of arable lands are used, they will use water, and they will use water from the Nile, and Egypt will lose water. So Egypt has a vested interest in keeping Sudan in chaos, so that it is unable to cultivate any hectare of land for another 100 years, so that Egyptians can survive. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia and some of the Middle East countries are not democracies. And Sudan is an Arab country. And if democracy succeeded in Sudan, their peoples will stand up and say, hey, it is working in Sudan, so why should we have a kingdom? Why should we have an emir? Why should we have this? Why should we have a military ruler like Egypt, Sisi? So practically, all the Arab countries, let me put it to that way, are not interested in democracy in Sudan to succeed. And because if it succeeded, then their people will say, hey, why don't you treat us like the Sudanese? And so those all are supporting the military to continue. And unfortunately, some African countries also are doing the same. You know, you are a Zimbabwean, you know what Bob was doing in Zimbabwe. So there are many Bobs in Africa still in power. Some of them came to power democratically, but they wanted to stay as dictators, as military. They are not interested in the success of democracy in every African country. And they are also supporting the military under the table. In public, they say, no, you see, human rights and this, but under the table, they say to the military, continue, we will support you. We will never allow African Union to do this to you. We will never allow this to do this to you. So it is a complex matter, my friend. But in the end, we are dependent on the people and in the new generation who believe in peace, who believe in freedom, and who believe in development and who believe Africans can be the future of the world. And those are the minds that we are depending on to change Sudan to the better.
No, Doc, we're running out of time. Thank you so much. Thank you for this discussion. I hope this will benefit our comrades. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mapena, General Secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party. As part of our Red Sunday political discussion, we were discussing Sudan. Please write your comments, share with us. We know that there are many Sudanese, there are quite a number of Sudanese that are in South Africa, about 500 or so, and all over the world. And there are many that have been in Sudan, the ZPRA cadres, the MK cadres. Please write your comments, share your views about Sudan. Otherwise, comrades, red salute.
I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. And actually, I wanted to tell you the reason I fell in love with Southern Africa is not South Africa, but actually Zimbabwe, because I was sent in 1989 in early November to train the Red Cross volunteers on HIV and AIDS in Harare.
We will discuss that, Doc, next time.
Okay, thank you.
Our time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.